We are going to talk about segmenting, and this is what I call segmenting 201. 101 would be just basic turning with basic segmenting without any fancy stuff in there. This one I'm going to teach you how to do what we call featuring, which adds more pizzazz to your turning. Okay, and I'm going to go into some basic stuff that's not even related to featuring, but I belong to this Facebook group that's called wood turning, segment wood turning. I see a lot of people posting on there that shouldn't be posting anything. And so I said, these people don't even know what they're doing themselves. They shouldn't be teaching, shouldn't be showing what they don't know to people who are trying to learn. So I'm hoping that I know what I'm talking about. So I'm hoping that I can show you some things that be misrepresented. First of all, I'm going to show you some examples. I'll show you this one first. This is something that I made, I don't even remember how many years ago now. Western rack type of design. And actually I made one already out of it. I made it big enough so that I can part the tool, with the parting tool, I part this off. I was hoping to make the second one. I just got interested in other things. I haven't finished this one, but eventually I'll finish this one here. So that's one relatively simple design. And it can be as complicated as this. And to make this one, it took me 3 weeks to get to this point. And this one here is what I taught yesterday. And this particular ring is going to end up in a bowl. That's going to be a raffle prize for this year's SWAT. And hopefully I have it finished by then. You need to let your imagination free. And I went to a demonstration back in 2018 by the lady called by the name of Tony Ransfield, and she was doing what she called mini fiori, which means 1,000 flowers. It's a glass art, but she uses polymer clay, and I was so impressed with it. The next year, I went to her shop and spent a whole weekend learning how to do it. And it's a long story, but I'm not going to go into details. But anyway, this is the kind of thing you can do. So, you're not limited to just by using wood and putting designs in there. You can do anything you want to, as long as it's attractive. I mean, even if it's not attractive, you can still do it. And unfortunately, a lot of people do that too. So we're going to start with some basic stuff. Let's get started with this. So that's a segmented bowl. Okay, I mean that guy set the Guinness book of record, and he's in the record. And this is Ray Allen, and he makes big. I mean, he passed away a few years back, quite a few years back, but he's one of my idols. And with one piece of wood, you can only do so much, and you have to rely on nature. I mean, nature provides you with a beautiful piece of wood. You accentuate it by turning a beautiful shape out of it. And this is a piece that I got from a guy who had ordered a bunch of mesquite, and he had slices for flatwork, but this is the first cut. So it's just a bark, or just the bark and sapwood. And I said, could I have some of this? And this was probably a little bit over 2 inches thick. You know, when you put it through a sawmill, you have to have it flat to begin with. So this was the first cut. He didn't want to give me a whole lot. This is a little piece that I got, maybe 6 inches or so. I said, this is my very proud piece. It's just absolutely gorgeous. I gave it to a good friend of mine. So I have several different these designs here. I made the three of them on the left, and the open one was made by someone else. So it's very I have labeled who the makers are on these: Ray Allen, Kurt Theobald, Malcolm Tibbetts. Bud Lathman has been very quiet, and he used to own a company called the Bow Company. You can buy kits from him, and just all you have to do is put them together. And he also was selling these instruction sheets. And you know, some of these, like the zigzag pattern, requires second generation, third generation cutting. You can't just do simple cut. You have to glue them together and recut them. So it's very challenging. Without instruction to start with, well, to me was not possible to do. So some people use Malcolm Tibbetts, who sells his work for like $20,000-$30,000. He uses a chop saw, but he doesn't use any chop saw. He uses it's called K-Pack. That saw is 10-inch saw blade, like $1,200. He does it because he uses it because he travels a lot. He teaches all over the place, and he can't carry a table saw with him. So that thing is portable, so he can take it with him. As far as saw blade goes, I have to use the combination saw blades instead of using either crosscut or ripping blade, because I'm too lazy. Because there's so much combination cutting, I have to rip first and then crosscut. I just don't want to switch back and forth. And to me, the quality of cut is good, not perfect. Well, I don't know if anything can give you a perfect cut. With this kind of saw blade, with 10 or 30 or 50 saw teeth saw blade, you have a tendency to have little fibers hanging at the end. All it takes is a little bit of sanding to get rid of that. And it's a whole lot easier to do that than switching the blade back and forth. And if you have a lot of some crazy people are now doing segments, rings with 288 segments. 288. You know, whole cycle is like 360 degrees. And, okay. So there's a totally different ball game. But for those people, they use like 84 tooth blade because you get a finer cut. You don't have as much splintering, and they don't have the time to sand all the segments. And as far as glue goes, Titebond is the most popular. The one on the left is the Titebond original, and then the blue one, I think it's Titebond 2, and the green one is Titebond 3. They all have their uses. Titebond original is the most popular among the serious wood segmenters, Malcolm Tibbetts, Kurt Theobald, and so on and so forth. And I use it too, and it's less expensive than the others. However, for something like we were doing yesterday, we had a lot of cutting and gluing to do, and for something like this, I have to put them together real fast, and I can't just sit there and hold the pieces together until the glue dries. So I use what they call now, it's um, this glue here, it's called speed set. And it takes about half the time to cure, or they say that you reduce the clamping time by half. So the people that took the class yesterday can attest that this glue really works. And for something like this, I can't just sit there, and it would have taken me like 8 or 9 weeks if I used a different glue. There are all different formulations of what's called PVA glue, polyvinyl acetate. You know, PVC is polyvinyl chloride. This is polyvinyl acetate. And I can go into, there's a whole lot of different glues. Oh, one more that you might be interested in if you're doing a lot of segments is called extend, type on extend. They have two different, like type on original extend, type on original, type on 2 extend, so on and so forth. Oh, let me back up a little bit. Type on 3 comes out of the bottle a little bit, it's almost like white, almost like milk color, but when it dries, it's a little bit brownish. So if you don't want to show the line, you don't want to use that glue. But if you want to accentuate your lines, you can use that glue. Okay. So as far as wood goes, this is a chart published by the flooring industry. It shows you how stable the woods are. If you can see it, the second from the bottom is mesquite. Mesquite is extremely stable. So once it's, well, even before dry, well, I'm sure a lot of people here have experience with mesquite. And if you look from the top, like 4 or 5, fifth line there, oak. Oak is very, very unstable. I mean, I don't care, it's white oak, red oak. I just advise people, unless you don't care about the perfect round shape, you shouldn't be using oak. I mean, I've turned oak and like post oak. We have a lot of post oak in College City. I'm sure, I know you got a lot of post oak here too. And someone was telling me last time I was here that post oak here seems to be a little bit more stable than the stuff in College Station. The first time I had a tree cut down, before the tree was on the ground, was already checked. Yeah, it cracks so fast. And you'd be surprised that in the middle are the softwoods, pine, cedar. They're relatively stable, but the problem there is the summer growth and winter growth have too much a difference in hardness. It's very difficult to turn. Okay, so I just want to remind you that you don't want to mix something that moves a lot with something that hardly moves, because you're going to have a problem over time. They're going to separate. You're going to have a failed joints. And another thing is grain orientation. This is not something you want to do. Well, if you look at all the picture frames, they all have 45-degree cut, right? You don't do this. I mean, this is something that you do when you build furniture. You have no choice but to do this. So because the wood moves, the side grain, the length of the wood hardly changes once it's dry, but the width of the wood will keep on moving. So if you have this kind of arrangement, you're bound to have a problem in the future. Doesn't even take that long to have a problem with it. I still use this software, which is made by Jerry Bennett. A lot of people here probably know Jerry Bennett, or at least they know him by name. Unfortunately, the last version he sold, was probably close to 20 years ago. He's my very good friend. He keeps telling me the next version is going to come out. It's going to do wonders. But he doesn't have the time to update it. So he still hasn't come out with it. But this one helps me a lot, because I used to like draw on grid paper, chart paper, and then I measure the distance, the dimensions like OD and ID, and then I would plug into my spreadsheet. I designed a spreadsheet, and if anybody is interested, I'd be happy to let you have it. And I've offered this to anybody that has gone to my presentation at the symposia. And so all you have to do is plug in your OD and ID and how many segments you want. And it does all the calculation for you. Tells you how long the segments are supposed to be, how wide the strip of wood should be. And it even tells you how long a piece you need for a ring, which is really helpful because you don't want to end up with short of a piece of wood to complete the ring, or you don't want to waste a lot of wood because every layer would have different width of the wood. So you get a long piece, you cut it too narrow, it's useless. So that really helps. And I did this. I designed the spreadsheet before Jerry's wedge sled came out, and I was using a miter gauge setup, and I would have like half-inch left by the time I get to the end. So it's very, very helpful in your designing of the bow. So just email me. I'll be happy to send it to you. And well, let me talk a little bit about the wedgie sled. I don't have one here with me today, but what it is, it's a sled with two fences on there. You put a wedgie in between, and you set the angle. For those who don't know anything about segmenting, you're shooting for a round circle with no gaps in between segments, okay? These two rings are the same dimension, same diameter. This one is cut with these two angles at 75 degrees each. So the two adjacent corners of two adjacent pieces add up to 150 degrees. And that's what you shoot for when you do a 12 segment ring, okay? If you are perfection, 75 is what you shoot for. But look at this one. You can do 70 degrees and 80 degrees. You still have a perfect ring, except and it doesn't matter. You wouldn't want to do this, but so if you use a wedgie sled when you make an adjustment, you don't have to be perfectly on at the angle. You can still have a very close ring that's very close to perfection. So that's something I want to point out to you. And there, Jerry has a website that tells you how to do this, and he sells wedgies. I think he sells them like $15 a piece, and if you buy 4 pieces, like $50. It's really, really inexpensive in my opinion. And he has a big CNC router. He just routes them out, and I'm special. So he gives me like 17 segments, 23 segments, and 15 segments. So I had to make something for him. I made before Wedge's sled came out. Wedge's idea came out. Most people would do 2 half rings. You do 2 half rings, then you sand the mating surfaces flat, so you know they're gonna not show any gaps at all. But you're not gonna end up with a perfectly round circle. It's gonna be a little oblong, which is okay, but not very good. And so it was impossible to make a odd number segments with that kind of approach. With Jerry's, you can do any number. And so he gave me a wedgie that can do 15 segments. So I made one out with the help. I made one with 15 segments with 15 of these diamonds, and I gave it to him. It's appreciation of his effort. So that's a basic of segmenting. I mean, perfect approach to us to segmenting problems or challenges. This Jerry's program also gives you all the dimensions you need. Okay, but don't worry about it because it's not available anymore. He's not selling them. There's no dealers that are carrying them either. So what I do is I would use the spreadsheet that I designed or Jerry software, and for the featuring, I just do it on chart paper like this. And I have a program called Corel Draw. I can draw any shape and I can repeat it. So I can, like the bottom one is got 45-degree corner there. And the top one is just rectangles. So you can make your own graph paper really. So now let's go back to what we're gonna the subject of today, making a feature ring. And this is what we did over the weekend. Okay. I wish I had shown the students before the class, because there are certain things that I have in this video that would help, but I couldn't do it in the shop. So first thing you need to do is to cut a bunch of rectangles, and come on. Why is it not doing it? Oh, yeah, okay. I have this sled that makes it safe to do it with. And if you're comfortable, you can just do it with the stop on the rip fence, and just use your miter gauge to push it through. I mean, they have to be same size. In this particular case, we're going to do a bunch of cutting afterwards, so it's not super critical, but it's easy to do it this way, okay? And so you end up with a bunch of rectangles. Now, for a 12 segment rings, you need 4 light color pieces and 4 dark color or color, whether it's brown or red or purple or whatever. So there are 8 pieces here. And so altogether there are 96 pieces for this ring, and plus the partition here. So it's a lot of cutting and lots of gluing. And but what I'm showing here will help you do it. We got the rectangles now. We're gonna cut the rectangle into triangles. And this is the setup for the triangle, and I have a jig here to do it with. I don't like squares, so I like diamond with 60-degree and 120 degrees. This being 60-degree, and this is 120 degrees here. So what you do is you need to cut pieces into triangles with 60-degree and 30-degree, because then you double them up, you end up with 120 and 60. So if you're interested, I can show you how this is done, but I don't have the time to do it for everybody, and probably not everybody's interested in doing this either. I have improved this. The first version that I had was like this piece of wood. Okay. And you're not going to do it that big. But with the big area, what you can do is you can put a spacer here so you can cut it any size you want. And I improved it by using corian, and you see the screws I had here were for the what they call hold down clamps, okay? And you just feed this through. You make I can go to the video now. It's finicky. So you clamp it. You want to make sure you have enough clearance so you don't cut the clamps. The clamps have rubber tip, but still the metal goes through it. You want to make sure that that doesn't cut the metal part. And so that one, you make it a little bit bigger. So when you put the second piece in there, you know you still got enough meat for a perfect triangle. Okay. So you go through the light color wood and dark color wood the same way. And then you glue the two triangles together like this. This is the speed set glue that I was using. I have these. I'll show it to you in a moment. That's way too much glue. It doesn't take that much, but sometimes with this dispenser, it's a lot hard to control how much you squeeze out. Your gluing has to be consistent. Preferably, the corners will meet. But even with this design, it's hard to get to that point. And this is what I used, in the previous slide or video. So you push the pieces against the corner here, against these walls in the corner here. And so now we got 48 pieces. 48 pieces of a rectangle. And then you want to expose, you end up with the bottom piece there if you put them together, but that's not good because you want to have the diamond separate from the rest of it. So you want to end up with something like this, right? You kind of have all the four pieces together with no white color surrounding the diamond. So what you do is you make a cut a corner, cut one side of the dark color. I mean, doesn't matter, depending on the design, you can reverse it, but in this case, I want to do it just like this. So you cut 4 pieces at a time. All 4 pieces have to be cut the same way. So you end up with 4 pieces that are identical to each other. But one important thing, before you start cutting all these pieces, you want to make sure your wood has the same dimension. Thickness is more important than anything else, really. Yeah. We had the problem over the weekend because I didn't check and make sure that, I mean, when you go to a lumber yard, when you buy 1x, they should all be 13/16 of an inch thick. I mean, I've never had any problem with that. but the piece of blood wood we had this weekend was about 16 of an inch thicker than the white wood, and I didn't realize that. So after we glued them together, it was ooh, there's a difference there. That's not good because that makes it hard to do. So I got the 4 pieces, uh, or 48 pieces cut. They're all they're all missing that point on the white part, and then you glue them together. Then you end up with 2 half diamonds, right? So then you trim off the other part of the diamond. Let me show you a video. We managed to do it, but we had to be careful because you can't just clamp it down. So we did a kind of mirror image match. So the bottom is always flat. Otherwise, yeah, you have to either sand it down or feed it through the saw, which could be very scary because they're so small. Yeah, yeah, and it could mess up really badly because when they're that small, it's very difficult to handle. So this is a video that shows how you slice off that piece, that side. Are we playing? Yeah. So then you end up with a perfect diamond, right? Well, you saw what I was pushing with when I push it through. This is the push block that I use. This is just from 2x4. I sliced 2x4 in half. I mean, you don't need a whole 1.5 inches of 2x4 to do this job. I'm just frugal. It's just I mean, I do 2 of them out of 1 piece of wood instead of just one. It doesn't matter. It's sacrificial. I mean, this is cheap stuff, and this is something laying around. I just picked it up and made. Or you can spend like $6 to $8. I don't know what the current price is. Wood price has gone up like crazy. Just get OSB, or OSB. Yeah, yeah, OSB. It's wood chips that they compress together with glue, and that's cheap. Like I said, well, the last time I bought a 1/2 inch sheet was like $8. Or you can, if you want to, be my guest. You can buy these fancy push blocks that cost $80. I don't know what the brand name is called. It's yellow and green, I think it's the color. And micro jig. Yeah, I don't care because that's why I don't remember the name because it's expensive. I mean, someone in Houston said, "Well, I have that." I said, "Be my guest. If you want to spend the money that way, that's your discretion. I don't care, but I wouldn't do it personally." And it's like every segment, everybody when they start segmenting, they ask question they ask is, "What kind of drum sander you use?" I've been doing this for 30 years. I've never needed a drum sander. If you need a drum sander to flatten your ring, you need to improve your gluing technique. And as I was showing the class yesterday, you glue it right. All you have to do is glue a piece of sandpaper, 60 grit sandpaper on a sheet of really something really flat. The best thing is granite. You can go to a kitchen countertop fabricator or a flooring place and get a piece of granite for free because they have to hire somebody to haul this off and they have to pay for disposal too. So they'd be happy to give it to you. And I mean, shape, it doesn't matter. If you got a perfectly cut shape, that's fine. But if not, no big deal either. Just sand it on there. But one thing I want to warn you is if you sand too fast, move too fast, you're going to end up with something because you have a tendency to rock it as you rock, move back and forth. So do it slowly, like about this speed. You get a perfect flat surface. Once you got one surface flat, the second part you glue it on there, and what I use is a cone. A cone mounted on the tail stock. When you push it in, the cone will center it and put pressure on it to glue on the previous layer. The previous layer was trued up on the lathe. So you know the two surfaces are perfectly true. Once you glue it on there, then you can true up the second side. And then you repeat the same process until you finish with the bowl. I mean, most of the time, I don't really care for open segments. I mean, open bowls. I do hollow form. Most of my turnings are hollow form. I just like the shape better. For instance, these two rings, one would go on the bottom block, the other one goes on to the top block. When I bring them together, then I have a perfect ring with the pattern that I want. So I don't need a drum sander. And at this point, we have 24 of half diamonds. Then you just glue them together. Really, a bead about 1/8 of an inch wide is plenty. A word of caution here. This may not be the best way to do it because your two halves might not be perfectly lined up. So I would use the diamond center line of diamond as a guide. Line those two up, then you will have the top and bottom meet each other instead of having it misaligned a little bit. Because if your previous piece went perfectly, the right size or right placement, then you may not have a perfect diamond. Okay, so now we have 12 segments made. Oops, what did it jump? And next thing you want to do is it's a little hard to see here. You see, I marked 1 and 2. You mark every piece at the same spot on either top or the bottom, but not the faces, because the faces are going to be trued up or cut off, because we want to true up the faces for accurate miter cuts. You see a little mark at the bottom left there? That's a mark where I measured from the center line to that point. Make a mark there. So you know when you cut it, one side is going to be exactly the same on all 12 segments or whatever number of segments you have. And once you do that, you feed it through the whoops. I think I'm missing. Oh no, that's okay. You use a push block and true up both sides of the segment, and then you do the miter cut or with the wedges thread, and you put a stop on there. You know, Jerry came up with this idea in November of 2013, and he officially announced his wedgie idea at the segmenting symposium in 2014. I did not adopt his method until 2 years later, because when you cut segments for for uh, for segmented rings, you have a long stock. You have something to hold on to. You keep on doing this, right? Well, how do you do it when you have a block only this wide? So I can't do it. So I was using my old method, and then I realized I can probably figure out a way to do it. This is the way I figured it out. You clamp a block on there, the stop. You already chewed up one end of it, right? Like from the previous two slides ago, you chewed up one side. The other side, you don't have to chew it up, because when you feed it through the saw, it's gonna cut it for you. So it's gonna cut that jagged side piece away from it, and you end up with the right correct angle and a smooth surface. So that's how you make the first cut. And you move to the second fence. You come on. You see, I turn it around, because otherwise you end up with a parallelogram, which is not going to do you any good. You need a trapezoid, right? So if you don't think that's why I advise people to actually put two pencil marks on there, showing the trapezoid. Otherwise, you might end up with parallelograms that are not. And you spend so many hours on something like this, and you mess up one piece, your whole day, whole weekend is ruined. And so the advice is make a couple extra pieces, just in case you mess up. Hopefully you won't mess up more than one or two pieces. Let's see. So the next thing I want to do, oh, I'm doing pretty good on time, am I not? The next thing you want to do is to add this what I call partition that separates. Well, you can glue them all together, just like there's no separation. I just don't like that. I mean, this looks better. So I add a darker piece. Well, if it's light piece segments to start with, add a dark piece. If it's like if I use say bloodwood or purple heart for this, the body of the segment, I would add something like maple to separate them. So next step is I'm gonna glue. Instead of cutting short pieces of wood to fit in here, I glue the segment onto a long stick of, say, in this case, walnut. And I feed it through. Let me show you how I do the gluing first. It's really the same process. Another, just a little bead, or with this particular nozzle, that's you can do it that way too. You don't need a bottle of glue like this can last me like years. I mean, I'm slow. I'm not I'm not like Malcolm Tibbetts, who can make several very very fancy pieces a year. And I don't care. I mean, I take my own pace and do what I like to do it right. So once you glue that piece on there, you cut it off. You see, I got you're more than welcome to come up and take a look at all these things. This is my stop block. It's adjustable, but this particular design requires a saw that's got the miter grooves a T shape. So it's a T track because I have this thing, the bottom that will lock in. I slide it in there. I can lock it down, and then I adjust the length of cut with this here. I mean, you can get super accurate. And Jerry Bennett uses a caliper here, so he can read the length directly from it. So that's too fancy for me. I don't want to tie up my expensive caliper. So yeah, like I said, you're more than welcome to come up and take a look at any of these things. Feel free to take pictures too. So one thing I didn't mention, it's a little bit hard to explain, but your miter gauge is supposed to be set to 90 degrees from your blade. But when was the last time you checked it? How sure are you that it's 90 degrees, right? So what you do is you take that walnut piece, you cut the end off, and you put a mark on that piece of wood, put a point, like an arrow on there. So you feed it through every time in the same direction of feed. That way you're guaranteed the two sides that are cut are parallel to each other. Two ends are the cut ends are parallel to each other. Whether it's square or not, it's not critical because that's going to be taken care of later. I mean, hopefully you're not off by that much anyway. So it's hard to I'm not showing it here, but have I shown you this yet? No, I haven't turned this on yet. So you set up the stop, and I think in this case it's like 3/16 of an inch wide. Cut it off, and then you repeat the same process for 12 times. This way, you know they're parallel, so you know when you bring if your original cuts on the miter cuts on your segments are correct, then it should still come together as a ring without any gaps between segments. Okay. Now, if you start with something thin, moisture in the glue can mess you up. When you put that glue on, it also makes it harder to glue on there. And the reason I do this, there's another reason that I do it this way. Remember, I was talking about grain orientation at the beginning of the talk. In this case, all the grains are running, all the fibers are running in the same direction, not against each other, not at 90 degrees. Because you can have failed joints if you do it really wood together like that. Okay. So next step is just put the ring together. Glue all the segments together. I got all the 12 segments lined up on the lower right corner there. And so you take some duct tape. I like duct tape because you can rip it. I mean, 2-inch duct tape, you can rip it to tear it to any width you want. And then I wrap the tape around the segments. This way, you spend so much time making sure everything's done right. But if your two segments next to each other are not lined up at the corner, at the tip there, it's going to mess up. This way, you don't have to worry about it because it's all lined up for you. All you have to do is come back and put glue on there and wrap them together. You're done. But I learned over the years that it's easier to do them in two halves because it makes me nervous to put glue on all segments and clamp together in one session, in one shot, because if anything happens, all my work is out the window. I have to start all over again. So, so you put glue. When you put glue on there, you want to put the glue as close to the tape as possible because when you fold the segments back, the glue will be squeezed toward the center. So the whole surface will be covered with glue. You don't want to put the glue on the inner edge of it because then the outer edge will not end up with glue. So in this case, I'm doing two halves separately. You see, I'm now putting the glue on the two end pieces or four end pieces. You tighten the tape and you clamp it. Make sure you got the clamp set up before you do this, because the glue sets up so fast. If it's screwed up, it's going to stay there. You can't correct it. I use hose clamps, and other people could be using something else, like rubber bands are very popular. I just don't feel comfortable. You know, when you put glue in there, adds thickness to it. If you don't put enough pressure in there, the glue could be a bit too much. Well, that will give you a separation of segments. So I use hose clamps, and you can get these pretty inexpensive from Amazon. Well, you can get anything from Amazon almost, right? Well, the problem is, well, you look at this particular one, it's perforated almost all the way. This is supposed to be a 10 or 10-inch hose clamp, but you can go all the way down to like 1 or 2 inch, 3 inches. Some of them will have perforation only about up to this point. So usually it's like if it's a 10-inch one, you can go down to 8 inches. That's all. You can't if you got the wrong one, if you mess up, you can't clamp it tight enough. So if you go to a local store, you can see what you're getting, and Amazon's pictures are not necessarily very accurate. So that's something you have to watch out for. The good thing is, if it's not right, you can return it for free of charge. Anything else? I think that's basically it. So that's a finished ring. That's this ring here. And then I have a list of references. And don't worry about writing it down. I'd be happy. Just let me know if you want this. I'll send it to you. I got the authors of some books and some websites that you can get information from. Let's see. The last one is segment@woodturner.org. That's the segmenting chapter of AAW. So we meet we used to meet like every 2 years, but the last two times they were like 3 years apart. But it costs like $25 a year to join, and you can access their website. That way you can make comments, you can do all sorts of things there. And I've been a member since the inauguration of the chapter. Um, That's all, folks.